My name is Lorraine Washington, and I'm 68 years old. I raised my daughter Jasmine by myself after her father died in a workplace accident when she was only 3 years old. I worked as a cafeteria manager at the local elementary school for 40 years, making sure Jasmine had everything she needed while we lived paycheck to paycheck. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for scrolling through Facebook last Saturday morning and seeing wedding photos of my daughter Jasmine's marriage to a man I'd never even heard of. I was sitting at my kitchen table with my morning coffee, checking social media like I did every morning when I saw it. Post after post, photo after photo. My daughter in a white wedding dress, smiling radiantly. A man I'd never seen before in a tuxedo kissing her. Bridesmaids in emerald green dresses. A decorated ballroom. A 3-tier cake. Guests dancing and celebrating. My daughter had gotten married, and I hadn't been invited. I stared at my phone's screen, my coffee growing cold in my hand, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The wedding had happened the day before, Friday evening. While I'd been sitting alone in my apartment watching game shows, my only child had walked down the aisle without me. I scrolled through the comments, hundreds of them, friends congratulating Jasmine and her new husband Derek. Beautiful ceremony. So happy for you both. What a perfect day. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. I looked at the guest list in the photos, Jasmine's friends from college, people I didn't recognize, what looked like Derek's large family. But no me, no empty seat where a mother should have been. Just nothing, like I didn't exist. I called Jasmine's phone. It went straight to voicemail. Hi, this is Jasmine. I can't answer right now, but leave a message and I'll get back to you. Jasmine, it's Mom. I just saw your wedding photos on Facebook. Call me back, please, we need to talk. I sat there for an hour, waiting for her to call back. She didn't. I called again, voicemail again. Jasmine, I don't understand what's happening. You got married and didn't tell me, didn't invite me. Baby, please call me back, I'm so confused. Still nothing. By afternoon, I was desperate. I called her best friend Tanya, someone I'd known since Jasmine was in high school. Mrs. Washington, hi, Tanya answered, her voice uncomfortable. Tanya, did you know about Jasmine's wedding? Silence. Tanya. Yes, I was there. I was a bridesmaid. The words felt like a punch to the gut. You were at my daughter's wedding, and you didn't think to tell me it was happening. Mrs. Washington, I wanted to, I really did. But Jasmine made us all promise not to say anything to you. She said. Tanya stopped. She said what? I can't, I'm sorry. You need to talk to Jasmine about this. I've been trying. She won't answer my calls. She's on her honeymoon. She and Derek flew to Hawaii this morning. She probably has her phone off. A honeymoon. My daughter was on a honeymoon after a wedding I knew nothing about. Tanya, please, I need to understand. Why wasn't I invited? What did I do wrong? Mrs. Washington, I really can't. It's not my place. But, she paused. Maybe check your email. Jasmine said she sent you something months ago. After we hung up, I checked my email. I went back months, searching for anything from Jasmine, and then I found it. An email from 3 months ago with the subject line, "Why I can't have you at my wedding." My heart was pounding as I opened it. The email was long, detailed, and devastating. Mom, I'm getting married in 3 months. You'll probably see photos on social media after it happens, so I wanted to explain why you're not invited. I know this will hurt you, but I need you to understand this isn't a sudden decision. It's the result of years of realizing that I can't have you in my life anymore. I kept reading, my vision blurring with tears as I discovered the reasons my daughter had excluded me from the most important day of her life. And those reasons, they were about to shatter everything I thought I knew about our relationship. But before I tell you what that email said, before I reveal why my daughter married without me there, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Click it. Then smash that like button, because this story is about to show you how a mother can lose her daughter without even realizing it was happening. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, because you need to hear why my daughter chose to get married without her mother present. and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I want to know who's here with me today. Because what I learned in that email, what my daughter told me about why she couldn't have me at her wedding, it broke my heart. But it also opened my eyes to truths I'd been refusing to see for years. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about my relationship with Jasmine and how we got to the point where she'd rather get married without me than have me there. To understand what happened, you need to understand my relationship with Jasmine and how I raised her. My husband Thomas died when Jasmine was 3 years old. He was working construction and there was an accident, a scaffolding collapse. He died instantly, leaving me a widow at 28 with a toddler to raise. I was devastated, lost, terrified, but I had Jasmine and she needed me to be strong. I got a job as a cafeteria worker at Lincoln Elementary School. It didn't pay much, but it had benefits, and the schedule meant I could be home when Jasmine got out of school. I worked my way up to cafeteria manager over the years, but it was still a working-class job with a working-class salary. We lived in a small apartment. We shopped at thrift stores. We ate a lot of pasta and casseroles because that's what we could afford. But I made sure Jasmine had what she needed: books, school supplies, a safe home. I was protective of her, very protective. After losing Thomas, I was terrified of losing Jasmine too, so I watched her carefully. I set strict rules. I needed to know where she was at all times. Mom, can I go to Sarah's house after school? Who's Sarah? Where does she live? Will her parents be home? What's their phone number? I need to call them first. Mom, can I join the soccer team? Soccer? That's dangerous. What if you get hurt? What if someone tackles you wrong and you break something? I don't think that's a good idea. Mom, can I go to the school dance? A dance with boys there? Jasmine, you're only 14. You're too young to be around boys unsupervised. The answer is no. I thought I was being a good mother, keeping her safe, protecting her from the dangers of the world. But looking back now, I can see I was suffocating her. Jasmine was a quiet child, obedient. She didn't rebel much, at least not openly. She followed my rules, came straight home from school, told me where she was going, asked permission for everything. I thought that meant we had a good relationship, that she respected me, that she understood I was keeping her safe because I loved her. I didn't see that she was just avoiding conflict, that she'd learned it was easier to comply than to argue with me. When Jasmine was 16, she asked if she could get a job at the local grocery store. A job? Why do you need a job? You should be focusing on school. I want to save money for college, and I want to have my own money to buy things I want. What things? If you need something, tell me and I'll get it for you. But I want to earn my own money. I want to be independent. Independent? Jasmine, you're 16. You don't need to be independent. You need to focus on your education. And besides, working will take time away from your studies. The answer is no. She didn't fight me. She just said, "Okay, Mom," and went to her room. I thought I'd won. I thought I'd protected her from the distraction of work and kept her focused on what mattered. I didn't realize I just taught her that her desires didn't matter, that my control was more important than her autonomy. When Jasmine applied to colleges, she got into several good schools, but most of them were far away, different states, hundreds of miles from home. Mom, I got into UC Berkeley. California. Jasmine, that's 3,000 miles away. You can't go to California. But it's a great school. It's one of the best programs for my major. There are good schools here. You got into State University. That's only 40 minutes away. You can live at home and commute. But Mom, I want to experience living on campus, having roommates, being independent. There's that word again. Independent. Jasmine, why are you so desperate to get away from me? Don't you love your mother? Of course I love you, but I want to have my own life. Your own life. You're 18 years old. You don't know anything about life yet. You need guidance, protection. What if something happens to you in California and I'm not there to help? We fought about it for weeks. It was one of the only times Jasmine really stood up to me. But in the end, I won. She went to state university and lived at home. I thought I'd protected her from making a mistake, from being too far away if she needed me. I didn't realize I'd just stolen her chance to grow up, to learn independence, to become her own person. During her college years, Jasmine tried several times to set boundaries with me, to create some independence. "Mom, I'm going to stay on campus late tonight. There's a study group." "How late? Who's in the study group? I want names, and I'll pick you up. You're not taking the bus after dark." "Mom, I'm 20 years old. I can take the bus." "Not while you're living under my roof, you can't. If you want to stay out late, I'm picking you up. End of discussion." Or, "Mom, some friends from class are going to the beach this weekend. I'm going to go with them." "The beach? Which beach? Who's driving? Are there boys going? Where are you staying? I want a full itinerary and phone numbers for everyone who'll be there." "Mom, you can't seriously expect me to give you everyone's phone numbers." "Then you're not going. If you can't keep me informed about your safety, you're not going anywhere." Every time she tried to assert independence, I shut it down. I told myself it was because I loved her, because I was protecting her, because the world was dangerous and I needed to keep her safe. But really, I was controlling her. I was so afraid of losing her, the way I'd lost Thomas, that I was holding on too tight. Jasmine graduated from college with honors. She got a good job as a social worker helping families in crisis. I was proud of her. But when she was 24, she told me she wanted to move out, get her own apartment. "Move out? Why? We live together just fine. And rent is expensive. Why waste money on rent when you can live here for free?" "Because I'm 24 years old, Mom. Most people my age have been living independently for years. I need my own space." "Your own space? What's wrong with the space you have here? You have your own bedroom, your own bathroom, everything you need." "I need my own life. My own place where I can make my own decisions without checking with you first." "So this is about me. You want to move out because you don't want to follow my rules." "Your rules are for a teenager, not a grown woman. Mom, you still have a curfew for me. You still ask me to text you every hour when I'm out. You still want to know who I'm with and where I'm going at all times. I'm an adult. You're my daughter, and as long as you're living in my house, you follow my rules. If you don't like it, then fine, move out. But don't expect me to help you." She moved out 2 weeks later, into a small studio apartment across town. I was devastated, hurt, angry that she'd chosen independence over staying with me. I called her every day, multiple times a day. "Have you eaten? Are you safe? Did you lock your door? Are your neighbors loud? Do you need anything?" "Mom, I'm fine. You don't need to call me 5 times a day." "I'm just checking on you. Is that a crime? I'm your mother, I worry." "Your worry feels like surveillance." "Surveillance? I'm showing that I care. How dare you accuse me of?" "Mom, I have to go. I'll talk to you later." She started answering my calls less frequently, started being busy when I wanted to visit, started creating distance. I told myself she was being ungrateful, that I'd sacrificed everything for her, and this was how she repaid me. I didn't see that I'd pushed her away with my controlling behavior, that my love felt like a cage to her. When Jasmine was 26, she started dating someone, a man named Eric. She didn't tell me about him for months. I found out when I saw a photo on her Facebook page. I called her immediately. "Who is this Eric person? Why didn't you tell me you were dating someone?" "Because I knew you'd react like this, interrogating me, demanding to meet him, judging him before you even know him." "I have a right to know who my daughter is dating. What if he's dangerous? What if he hurts you? I need to meet him, background check him, make sure he's good enough for you." "Background check him? Mom, you're not the FBI. You don't get to investigate my boyfriend." "Then, I guess, you don't want my blessing for this relationship." "I don't need your blessing. I'm an adult. I can date whoever I want." "Fine, date him, but don't come crying to me when he breaks your heart." We didn't speak for 2 weeks after that fight. It was the longest we'd ever gone without talking. When we finally reconciled, I apologized, sort of. "I'm sorry I overreacted. I just worry about you. You're my only child, my only family. I don't want to see you get hurt. I know, Mom, but you have to let me live my life, make my own choices, even if that means making mistakes. I just want what's best for you. What's best for me is having a mother who trusts me, who supports my decisions instead of trying to control them. I said I understood, but I didn't really. I still thought I knew better than she did. I still thought my experience and wisdom meant I should guide her choices. Jasmine dated Eric for 8 months. Then they broke up. She called to tell me, crying. He wasn't right for me. We wanted different things. I wanted to say, I told you so. I wanted to remind her that I'd had concerns about Eric from the beginning. But I managed to hold my tongue. I'm sorry, honey. Breakups are hard. Do you want to come over? I'll make your favorite dinner. No, thanks, Mom. I just need some time alone. Alone? Jasmine, you shouldn't be alone when you're sad. Let me come to you. I'll bring ice cream. We can watch movies. Mom, I said I need time alone. Please respect that. I'm just trying to help. I know, but right now the help I need is space. I'll call you in a few days. She hung up and I felt rejected, hurt that she didn't want my comfort, angry that she was pushing me away when she needed support. I didn't understand that my version of support felt overwhelming to her, that my presence felt intrusive instead of comforting. 2 years ago, when Jasmine was 29, she told me she'd started therapy. Therapy? Why? What's wrong? Are you depressed, anxious? Why didn't you tell me you were struggling? I'm not struggling. I'm just working through some things. What things? Jasmine, you can talk to me. You don't need to pay a stranger to listen to your problems. Some things I need to work through with a professional, someone objective who isn't personally involved in my life. What does that mean? Are you talking about me? Are you in therapy because of me? Mom, not everything is about you. But if you're having problems, I should know. I'm your mother. We should be able to talk about anything. We can't talk about everything, because every conversation becomes about your feelings, your worries, your needs. I can't even share my own struggles without you making it about how it affects you. That's not fair. I'm just trying to be supportive. Your support comes with conditions, with judgment, with attempts to control how I handle things. That's why I need therapy, to learn how to deal with that. I was furious, hurt, devastated that my daughter thought I was so terrible she needed therapy because of me. We barely spoke for months after that conversation. Jasmine would answer my calls but keep them brief. She'd make excuses not to visit. She'd cancel plans at the last minute. I felt like I was losing her, like she was slipping away and I couldn't stop it. So I did what I'd always done when I felt like I was losing control. I held on tighter. I showed up at her apartment unannounced. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. Mom, you live 30 minutes away. You weren't in the neighborhood. Can a mother visit her daughter? Not without calling first. Mom, I could have had plans. You can't just show up whenever you want. Why not? What are you hiding? Is there a man here? No, but that's not the point. The point is I need boundaries. Boundaries? Everyone talks about boundaries these days. When I was growing up, we didn't need boundaries. Family was family. You didn't shut each other out. I'm not shutting you out. I'm asking for basic respect for my space and my time. But I didn't respect it. I kept calling multiple times a day, kept showing up unannounced, kept demanding to know every detail of her life. I thought I was showing love, showing that I cared, showing that I was a devoted mother who was involved in her daughter's life. I didn't see that I was driving her away, that every intrusion made her pull back more, that my love felt like suffocation. 18 months ago, Jasmine started dating Derek. I didn't know about him until they'd been together for 6 months. When I found out, I was hurt. 6 months? You've been dating someone for 6 months and didn't tell me. I didn't tell you because I knew how you'd react, and I wanted to keep this relationship private until I knew it was serious. Private? From your own mother? Jasmine, that's hurtful. I should be the first person you tell about important things in your life. No, Mom, you should be someone I can share things with when I'm ready. But with you, everything becomes a big production. You want to meet him immediately, interrogate him, judge whether he's good enough. I wasn't ready for that. I just want to meet the man who's dadding my daughter. Is that so wrong? The way you want to meet him is wrong. You want to evaluate him like you're his parole officer. You want to decide if he's worthy of me. Mom, I'm 30 years old. I can decide for myself if someone is worthy of me. Fine, but I'd still like to meet him. Can we arrange a dinner? Something nice. Jasmine hesitated. I'll think about it. A month later, she finally agreed to bring Derek to my apartment for dinner. I was so nervous I cleaned my apartment 3 times. I cooked Jasmine's favorite meal, pot roast with mashed potatoes. I set the table with my nice dishes. When they arrived, Derek seemed like a pleasant young man. Tall, well-dressed, polite. He shook my hand and thanked me for having him. It's nice to finally meet you, Mrs. Washington. Jasmine talks about you often. Good things, I hope, I said, looking at Jasmine. Of course, Derek said diplomatically. During dinner, I asked Derek questions, where he was from, what he did for work, where he went to college, how he'd met Jasmine, what his intentions were with my daughter. Intentions? Derek looked uncomfortable. I care about Jasmine very much. We're taking things one day at a time. One day at a time, so you're not thinking long-term. You're not serious about her. Mom, Jasmine tried to interrupt. I am serious about her, Derek said. I just meant we're not rushing into anything. We're enjoying getting to know each other. At 30 years old, there's not a lot of time to waste. If you're not planning to marry her, you should let her know so she can find someone who will. Mom, that's completely inappropriate. I'm just being honest. Derek, do you plan to marry my daughter or not? Derek looked at Jasmine helplessly. Jasmine stood up. We're leaving. Mom, this is exactly why I didn't want to bring Derek here. You can't just interrogate him like this. I'm just asking reasonable questions. No, you're being invasive and controlling and rude. Derek, let's go. They left, and I sat alone at my table with the pot roast getting cold, wondering why Jasmine was so sensitive. I'd just been trying to protect her, to make sure Derek was good enough for her. I didn't see that I'd been completely out of line, that I'd embarrassed my daughter and made her boyfriend uncomfortable, that I'd crossed every boundary she'd tried to set. After that dinner, Jasmine stopped answering my calls as often, stopped visiting, stopped sharing details about her life. And 3 months ago, I know now from that email, she got engaged to Derek and started planning a wedding without telling me. A wedding I wasn't invited to. Because in that email I just found, Jasmine explained exactly why she couldn't have me at the most important day of her life. And her reasons were about to force me to face some very uncomfortable truths about the kind of mother I'd been. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I sat at my kitchen table staring at that email, my hands trembling as I read my daughter's words. Mom, I'm getting married in 3 months. You'll probably see photos on social media after it happens, so I wanted to explain why you're not invited. I know this will hurt you, but I need you to understand this isn't a sudden decision. It's the result of years of realizing that I can't have you in my life anymore. I've been in therapy for 2 years now, and my therapist has helped me understand something I couldn't see before. Our relationship is toxic. Not because you don't love me, I know you do, but because your love comes with so much control that it suffocates me. You've never respected my boundaries. I've asked you hundreds of times not to show up at my apartment unannounced, but you still do. I've asked you not to call me 5 times a day, but you still do. I've asked you to let me make my own decisions, but you still try to control everything I do. When I brought Derek to meet you, you interrogated him like he was a criminal. You asked about his intentions and whether he planned to marry me like you were conducting a job interview. You embarrassed me and made him feel unwelcome. That was the moment I realized I couldn't trust you to be appropriate at my wedding. My heart was pounding. I wanted to stop reading, but I forced myself to continue. But it's more than just that dinner, Mom. It's a lifetime of you treating me like I'm incapable of making my own choices. You wouldn't let me play sports because you thought I'd get hurt. You wouldn't let me go to the college I wanted because it was too far away. You wouldn't let me get a job as a teenager because you thought it would distract me from school. Every decision I've ever tried to make, you've overruled. Every boundary I've tried to set, you've trampled. Every time I've tried to grow up and be independent, you've pulled me back. My therapist calls it enmeshment. You've made me your entire life, your only purpose, and you can't let me be separate from you. You see my independence as rejection instead of normal, healthy development. I love you, Mom, but I can't breathe with you in my life. And I can't have you at my wedding because I know what would happen. You'd try to control the planning. You'd criticize my choices. You'd make the day about your feelings instead of about Derek and me starting our life together. So I'm getting married without you. Derek and I are having a small ceremony with people who support our relationship and respect our boundaries. People who can be happy for us without making it about themselves. I need you to know this isn't about punishing you. It's about protecting myself and my marriage. I can't start my life with Derek while still being controlled by you. I hope someday we can have a different relationship, one with healthy boundaries, one where you see me as an adult capable of making my own choices. But until you can do that, I need distance. I'm sorry this hurts. I know it will. But I have to choose myself and my future over protecting your feelings. Love, Jasmine. I read the email 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Every word felt like an accusation, like an attack, like Jasmine was blaming me for loving her too much. My first instinct was anger. How dare she? How dare she call our relationship toxic? How dare she accuse me of being controlling when everything I'd done was to protect her? I typed out an angry response. Jasmine, I just read your email. I can't believe you're blaming me for being a good mother. Everything I did was because I love you. I protected you. I kept you safe. I sacrificed everything for you. And this is how you repay me. By shutting me out of your wedding, by calling our relationship toxic. You're being incredibly ungrateful and cruel. My finger hovered over the send button, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the fact that she was already married, that the wedding had already happened without me, that sending this angry email wouldn't change anything. Or maybe it was something else, a small voice in the back of my mind asking, what if she's right? I deleted the email without sending it. Instead, I sat there and forced myself to really think about what Jasmine had written, to consider that maybe, just maybe, she had a point. Had I been controlling, I'd thought I was being protective, but was there a difference? Had I suffocated her, I'd thought I was showing love, but could love become too much? Had I made her my entire life, I thought that's what good mothers did, put their children first. But had I taken it too far? I thought about all the times Jasmine had tried to set boundaries and I'd ignored them. All the times she'd asked for space and I'd invaded it. All the times she'd tried to make her own choices and I'd overruled her. I'd told myself it was because I knew better, because I had more experience, because I was protecting her from making mistakes. But what if I'd been wrong? What if I'd been controlling her under the guise of protection? The thought was devastating, because if Jasmine was right, it meant I'd damaged our relationship. It meant I was the reason my own daughter had gotten married without me there. I called my sister Ruth. She was 5 years older than me and had 3 grown children of her own. Ruth, I need to talk to you. Something terrible has happened. What's wrong? Jasmine got married yesterday, and I wasn't invited. What? Why wouldn't you be invited to your own daughter's wedding? She sent me an email 3 months ago explaining why. I just found it. Ruth, she says our relationship is toxic. She says I'm controlling. She says she can't have me in her life. Silence on the other end of the line. Ruth, are you there? I'm here. Lorraine, can I be honest with you? Of course. I'm not surprised. The words hit me like a slap. What do you mean you're not surprised? Lorraine, I've been watching you with Jasmine for years, and I've seen how you are with her. You're intense, overbearing, you don't let her breathe. I'm protective, there's a difference. Is there? Lorraine, when Jasmine was 18 and wanted to go to college in California, you guilted her into staying home. When she was 24 and wanted to move out, you acted like it was a personal betrayal. When she started dating, you interrogated her boyfriends like they were criminals. I was just making sure they were good enough for her. No, you were trying to control who she dated. Lorraine, I love you. You're my sister. But you've been smothering that girl her whole life. How can you say that? I've sacrificed everything for her. I know you have, but sacrifice doesn't give you the right to control another person's life, even if that person is your daughter. So you think she was right to exclude me from her wedding? Ruth was quiet for a moment. I think she was protecting herself, and I think if you're honest, you know she had reasons to do it. Whose side are you on? I'm on both of your sides, but Lorraine, you asked for honesty, and honestly, you need to take a hard look at your behavior, at how you've treated Jasmine, because if you don't, you're going to lose her completely. After we hung up, I felt sick. My own sister thought I was the problem, thought I'd driven Jasmine away. I wanted to dismiss it, to tell myself that Ruth didn't understand, that nobody understood how hard it was to raise a child alone, to be so afraid of losing them that you held on too tight. But I couldn't dismiss it, because deep down I knew they were right. Over the next few days, I didn't try to contact Jasmine. She was on her honeymoon, and I knew she wouldn't answer anyway. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I started looking back at our relationship honestly. Not through the lens of I was a devoted mother who sacrificed everything, but through the lens of how did my actions affect my daughter. I thought about the time she wanted to join the soccer team, and I said no because I was afraid she'd get hurt. What I'd really been saying was, my fear is more important than your desires. I thought about the time she wanted to go to UC Berkeley, and I guilted her into staying home. What I'd really been saying was, my need to have you close is more important than your dreams. I thought about all the times I'd shown up at her apartment unannounced, even after she asked me not to. What I'd really been saying was, my wishes are more important than your boundaries. I thought about the dinner with Derek when I'd interrogated him about his intentions. What I'd really been saying was, I don't trust you to choose a partner. I need to approve him first. Every memory I examined showed the same pattern. My needs, my fears, my desires, they'd always come first. I disguised it as love, as protection, as concern. But really, it was control. I'd been controlling my daughter her entire life, and I'd told myself it was because I loved her. But real love doesn't control. Real love lets go. Real love trusts. Real love respects boundaries. I hadn't been showing Jasmine real love. I'd been showing her conditional love. Love that said, I'll support you as long as you do what I think is best. I'll be there for you as long as you let me control your choices. I'll love you as long as you need me. No wonder she'd felt suffocated. No wonder she'd needed therapy. No wonder she'd gotten married without me. I started crying and couldn't stop. I cried for the relationship I'd damaged. I cried for the daughter I'd pushed away. I cried for the wedding I'd missed because of my own behavior. And I cried because I finally understood this was my fault, not Jasmine's, mine. A week after discovering the wedding photos, Jasmine called me. I almost didn't answer. I was terrified of what she might say, but I picked up. Mom, we need to talk. Okay. I know you saw the wedding photos, and I know you read my email by now. I did, Jasmine. I wanted to defend myself, to explain, to make excuses, but I stopped myself. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. She was quiet for a moment. What are you sorry for? For controlling you, for not respecting your boundaries, for making your life about my fears instead of your dreams, for being the kind of mother who suffocated you instead of supporting you. More silence. Then, you read the email. I did, and I've been thinking about it all week. And Jasmine, you were right, about everything. I've been a controlling, overbearing mother, and I've damaged our relationship because I couldn't let you grow up and be your own person. Mom. No, let me finish. I need to say this. I've spent the last week looking back at our relationship honestly, and I'm horrified by what I see. I didn't let you play sports. I didn't let you go to your dream college. I didn't let you have independence. I showed up at your apartment uninvited. I called you constantly. I interrogated Derek. I did everything you said in that email and worse. I'm glad you can see that now. But Jasmine, I need you to understand something. I didn't do those things to hurt you. I did them because I was terrified of losing you. When your dad died, you became my whole world, my only family. And I was so scared of something happening to you that I held on too tight. I know, Mom, and I understand that. But understanding why you did it doesn't make it okay. It doesn't undo the damage. I know, and I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. I'm just asking, my voice broke, for a chance to do better, to be the mother you deserve instead of the mother I've been. What would that look like? I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to go to therapy, to work on my control issues, to learn how to have a healthy relationship with boundaries and respect, whatever it takes. You'd go to therapy. Yes, I should have gone years ago. Maybe if I had, things would be different. Maybe I would have seen what I was doing before it was too late. It's not too late, Mom, but it's going to take work. Real work. You can't just say you'll change. You have to actually do it. I know, and I will. Jasmine, I missed your wedding. I missed one of the most important days of your life because I was such a terrible mother that you couldn't trust me to be there. That's not something I can ever get back. But maybe, if I really change, we can build something new, something better. Maybe, but Mom, I need you to understand something. I'm married now. Derek is my family, my primary family, and I need you to respect that, to respect him, to respect our marriage and our decisions. I will, I promise I will. And I need you to respect my boundaries. If I say don't call me every day, you don't call me every day. If I say don't show up unannounced, you don't show up unannounced. If I say I need space, you give me space. Can you do that? Yes, I can do that. Because if you can't, if you go back to your old patterns, I can't have you in my life. I mean that, Mom. I can't live like this anymore. I understand, and I won't go back. I'm going to change, really change. We talked for another hour. About the wedding, it had been beautiful, she said. About Derek, he was wonderful, kind, patient. About their honeymoon, Hawaii had been magical. And about the future. About what our relationship might look like if I could really change. I want you in my life, Mom. I do. But I need the version of you who respects me as an adult, who trusts me to make my own choices, who supports me instead of controlling me. That's who I'm going to become, I promise. After we hung up, I sat there feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that maybe our relationship could heal, that maybe I could become the mother Jasmine deserved. But I also felt something else. Determination. Because I knew this wouldn't be easy. Changing patterns that had been in place for 31 years that would take real work. The next day, I called a therapist. I need help. I've been a controlling mother, and I've damaged my relationship with my daughter. I need to learn how to be different. The therapist, Dr. Monica Chen, scheduled me for the following week. At my first session, I told her everything. About raising Jasmine alone, about being terrified of losing her, about all the ways I'd controlled her life. I thought I was being a good mother, I said, crying. I thought keeping her close meant keeping her safe, but I was really just keeping her trapped. Lorraine, you're showing a lot of insight by recognizing this. Many parents never do. The fact that you can see the pattern is the first step to changing it. But how do I change? This is who I've been for 31 years. This is how I've shown love. We're going to work on that. We're going to explore where this need for control comes from. We're going to look at your fear of loss and how it's shaped your behavior. And we're going to develop new ways of relating to your daughter, ways that show love without control. Over the next few months, therapy was intense. Dr. Chen made me examine every aspect of my relationship with Jasmine. Every time I'd prioritized my fear over her needs. Every time I'd disguised control as protection. When Jasmine wanted to play soccer and you said no, what were you really afraid of? That she'd get hurt, that something bad would happen to her. And if something bad happened, what would that mean? That I'd failed to protect her, that I'd lose her like I lost Thomas. So it wasn't really about Jasmine's safety. It was about your fear of loss and your fear of failure as a mother. I guess so. Lorraine, you've been parenting from a place of fear instead of a place of trust. Fear that if you're not constantly vigilant, something terrible will happen. Fear that if you let Jasmine be independent, she won't need you anymore and you'll lose your purpose. Fear that if you're not in control, everything will fall apart. Yes, that's exactly it. But fear-based parenting doesn't keep your child safe. It keeps them small. It prevents them from growing into who they're meant to be. And ultimately, it pushes them away, which is exactly what you were afraid of in the first place. Those words hit hard. I'd been so afraid of losing Jasmine that I'd driven her away with my controlling behavior. I'd created the very thing I feared most. So what do? How do I stop? You learn to sit with your fear instead of acting on it. You learn to trust Jasmine to make her own choices, even when those choices scare you. You learn that love means letting go, not holding on. It sounded simple, but it was the hardest thing I'd ever tried to do. Dr. Chen gave me exercises. When I felt the urge to call Jasmine multiple times a day, I had to stop and ask myself, am I calling because she needs something, or because I need reassurance? When I felt the urge to give unsolicited advice, I had to ask myself, did she ask for my opinion, or am I trying to control her decision? When I felt anxiety about not knowing every detail of her life, I had to remind myself, she's an adult. She doesn't owe me constant updates. Her privacy is healthy, not threatening. It was excruciating. Every instinct I had screamed at me to call, to check in, to make sure she was okay, to offer advice, to be involved. But I was learning that those instincts weren't about love. They were about control. And if I wanted a relationship with my daughter, I had to learn to silence them. 3 months into therapy, Jasmine invited me to dinner at her and Derek's new apartment. I was so nervous I almost canceled 3 times, but I went. When I arrived, I brought flowers. Not advice, not criticism, just flowers. Your apartment is lovely, I said, looking around at their space. And I meant it. Even though I had opinions about the furniture arrangement and the color of the walls, I kept them to myself. During dinner, Jasmine and Derek told me about their jobs, their plans to adopt a dog, their upcoming trip to visit Derek's family. Every fiber of my being wanted to ask questions, to offer suggestions, to warn them about potential problems. But I didn't. I just listened. I asked clarifying questions when appropriate. I said, "That sounds wonderful and I'm happy for you." At the end of the evening, as I was leaving, Jasmine hugged me. "Thank you, Mom." For what? For tonight, for being respectful, for not trying to control everything, for just being present without being overbearing. I know that was hard for you. It was, but it's worth it. You're worth it. As I drove home, I felt something unexpected. Peace. For the first time in years, I'd spent time with my daughter without the relationship feeling strained, without her pulling away from me, without conflict. And it felt good. But just when I thought we were making progress, something happened that tested everything I'd learned. 2 weeks later, Jasmine called me crying. "Mom, can I come over? I need to talk to someone." She arrived at my apartment 20 minutes later, her eyes red and puffy. Every protective instinct I had roared to life. My baby was hurting. I wanted to fix it, to demand answers, to solve whatever problem had made her cry. But I remembered what Dr. Chen had taught me. I took a deep breath and asked calmly, "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Derek and I had a huge fight. About money, about his family, about everything. I don't know if we're going to make it. My immediate thought was, I knew it. I knew Derek wasn't right for her. I should tell her to leave him now before it gets worse. But that wasn't my decision to make. So instead, I said, "I'm sorry you're going through this. That sounds really hard. Do you want to talk about it?" She did. For 2 hours, she talked about the fight, about the underlying issues, about her fears and frustrations. And I listened. I didn't offer advice unless she asked for it. I didn't criticize Derek. I didn't say, "I told you so." I just listened and validated her feelings. "It's normal for newlyweds to have conflicts," I said. "Learning to navigate disagreements is part of building a strong marriage. You really think we'll be okay?" "I think you and Derek love each other. And I think if you both work on communication and compromise, you can get through this. But Jasmine, that's just my opinion. You know your marriage better than I do. You'll make the right decision for yourself." She looked at me with surprise. "Who are you, and what have you done with my mother?" I laughed. "I'm trying to be a different kind of mother, a better kind, one who trusts you to handle your own life." "I appreciate that, more than you know." After she left, I called Dr. Chen and told her what had happened. "That must have been incredibly difficult for you," Dr. Chen said. "Your daughter was in pain and you didn't try to fix it for her or control the situation." "It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was also right. She needed support, not control. She needed a listener, not a fixer." "You're making real progress, Lorraine. You should be proud of yourself." I was proud. For the first time in my life, I'd been the mother Jasmine needed instead of the mother my fear told me to be. But I also knew this was just the beginning. Changing a lifetime of patterns would take years, not months. And there were still so many things I needed to learn about being a mother who loved without controlling, who supported without suffocating, who was present without being intrusive. The question was, could I maintain this change? Or would I slip back into old patterns when things got difficult? Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 6 months after Jasmine's wedding, I was still in therapy working on my control issues. Dr. Chen and I met every week, unpacking decades of fear-based behavior and learning new ways to relate to my daughter. It wasn't easy. There were days when every instinct screamed at me to call Jasmine multiple times, to show up at her apartment unannounced, to insert myself into her life, whether she wanted me there or not. But I didn't. I was learning to sit with the discomfort of not knowing every detail of her life, learning to trust that she was capable of handling things without my constant involvement. Jasmine and Derek had worked through their fight. Their marriage seemed stronger for it, and slowly, cautiously, Jasmine was letting me back into her life. We had dinner once a month. She'd call me when she wanted to talk. She'd share things about her life when she felt comfortable doing so. It wasn't the close, enmeshed relationship I'd always wanted, but it was healthier, better, more respectful. One evening, Jasmine called with news. "Mom, I have something to tell you. Derek and I are expecting a baby." My first reaction was pure joy, a grandchild. Then immediately after came a flood of other reactions: concern, questions, the urge to take control. But I caught myself. I took a breath. "Jasmine, that's wonderful. Congratulations. How are you feeling?" "Nervous, excited, a little scared, but happy." "When are you due?" 6 months. We just found out. We're not telling many people yet, but I wanted you to know." "Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm so happy for you both." There was a pause. Then Jasmine said, "I was afraid to tell you." "Why?" "Because I was worried you'd immediately take over. Start giving me advice I didn't ask for. Tell me how to be pregnant, how to prepare, how to parent, like you used to do with everything." "I understand why you'd worry about that. I have a history of doing exactly that." "But you didn't. You just said congratulations and asked how I was feeling. Thank you for that." "I'm learning. It's not always easy, but I'm learning." "I can tell, and Mom, I'm really proud of you for doing the work, for changing. I know it's hard." After we hung up, I sat with my feelings. Yes, I wanted to bombard her with advice. I wanted to tell her to take prenatal vitamins, to avoid certain foods, to rest more, to prepare the nursery early, to read parenting books. I wanted to be involved in every aspect of her pregnancy. But that wasn't my role. My role was to support her when asked, to be available when needed, and to respect her journey into motherhood as hers, not mine. In therapy that week, I talked to Dr. Chen about it. This is triggering all my old patterns. A baby, my grandchild, I want to be involved, I want to help, but I'm terrified of being too much again. It's good that you're aware of those feelings. What do you think Jasmine needs from you right now? She needs me to be supportive without being controlling. She needs me to respect that this is her pregnancy, her baby, her experience. Exactly. And what do you need, Lorraine? I thought about that. I need to grieve the grandmother role I imagined. I always thought when Jasmine had kids, I'd be heavily involved. I'd babysit constantly. I'd give advice. I'd be indispensable. But that's not realistic. Not with our history. I need to accept that my role will be different than I imagined. That's a lot of insight. Yes, you need to grieve that fantasy. But you can also create a new vision. One where you're a respectful, boundaried grandmother who's part of your grandchild's life without dominating it. Over the next few months, I practiced restraint. When Jasmine would mention something about the pregnancy, I'd ask, "Would you like my thoughts on that?" before offering any advice. Usually, she just wanted to share, not to get my opinion. When she told me they were preparing the nursery, I asked, "Is there anything you'd like help with?" Instead of showing up with paint and furniture I'd picked out. When she mentioned feeling anxious about labor, I said, "That's completely normal. Would you like me to share my experience, or would you rather talk to your doctor?" Instead of launching into a lecture about what to expect. It was a completely different way of being a mother and soon-to-be grandmother, and it was working. Jasmine started calling me more often. She'd share ultrasound photos. She'd tell me about her cravings and her discomforts. She was letting me in, not because I was forcing my way in, but because she trusted me to be respectful. One day, 4 months into her pregnancy, Jasmine asked me to go shopping with her for baby clothes. "Really? You want me to come?" "Yes, I'd like your company, and maybe your opinion on some things, if you're willing to share it without being pushy." I laughed. "I can do that, I think." We spent the afternoon at baby stores, looking at tiny clothes and cribs and strollers. Every time I had an opinion, I'd ask, "Do you want to know what I think?" before sharing it. "This crib is beautiful, but it's really expensive. Do you want to know what I think about it?" "Sure. I think if you love it and can afford it, get it. But there are also good cribs for less money if you want to save for other things. It's completely your choice." "Thanks, Mom. I appreciate you not telling me what to do." I'm learning that you're capable of making your own decisions, even if they're different from what I would choose. As we were leaving the last store, Jasmine said, "This was really nice. I was nervous about going shopping with you because I thought you'd try to take over. But you didn't. You let me lead. You asked before giving opinions. This is the kind of relationship I've always wanted with you." "Me too. I just didn't know how to do it before." "Well, you're figuring it out now, and I'm grateful." 2 months before Jasmine's due date, something happened that tested my progress in a major way. Jasmine called me upset. "Mom, Derek's job is transferring him to Seattle. We have to move in 6 weeks, right before the baby comes." My first instinct was panic. Seattle was 2,000 miles away. How would I see my grandchild? How would I help with the baby? How would I be involved? And right behind the panic came the urge to fix it, to convince them not to go, to offer Derek money to turn down the transfer, to make this problem go away. But I knew that wasn't my place, so I took a deep breath. "Wow, that's a big change. How are you feeling about it?" "Terrified. I don't want to leave right before having a baby. I don't want to be far from you and my friends. But Derek's job, this is a huge opportunity for him. A promotion. Much better pay. We can't turn it down." "It sounds like you've already made the decision." "We have. It's the right choice for our family, even though it's scary. But Mom, I'm worried about you being so far away when the baby comes." "I'm worried about that too. But Jasmine, this is your life, your family, your decision. And I support it even though I'll miss you terribly." "Really? You're not going to try to talk me out of it?" "No, this is your choice to make. And it sounds like a good opportunity for Derek's career and for your family's financial future." "Thank you. I was so scared to tell you because I thought you'd make it about you. about how you wouldn't see the baby, about how I was abandoning you. The old me would have done exactly that, but I'm trying to be different. Your life is yours, not mine, and my job is to support your choices, not control them. There was silence on the other end. Then Jasmine said, voice thick with emotion, I really appreciate that, Mom, more than you know. After we hung up, I let myself feel all the feelings. Sadness about the distance, grief about missing out on being close to my grandchild, fear about our relationship when I couldn't see her regularly. But I didn't call Jasmine back and dump those feelings on her. I called Dr. Chen instead. This is one of my biggest fears coming true. My daughter moving far away, not being able to see my grandchild grow up, being shut out. But you're not being shut out, Lorraine. Jasmine told you about the move. She shared her feelings with you. She was worried about your reaction but trusted you enough to tell you. That's inclusion, not exclusion. I guess that's true. And technology makes distance different than it used to be. You can video chat. You can visit. You can still be part of their lives, just differently than if they lived nearby. But it won't be the same. No, it won't be. And it's okay to grieve that. But Lorraine, this is actually a gift. A gift, how? It's forcing you to practice the ultimate letting go. You can't control Jasmine's life from 2,000 miles away. You can't show up unannounced. You can't insert yourself into every moment. This distance will require you to trust her completely, to let her live her life without your constant involvement. That's the final lesson you need to learn. I knew Dr. Chen was right, but it didn't make it hurt any less. Over the next 6 weeks, I helped Jasmine pack and prepare for the move. I asked what she needed instead of assuming. I offered help when requested instead of forcing it on her. The day before they moved, Jasmine came to say goodbye. Mom, I'm really going to miss you. I'm going to miss you too, so much, but we'll video chat, and I'll visit, and you'll visit, we'll make it work. Thank you for being so supportive about this move. The old you would have made this so much harder. The old me would have made it about my feelings instead of what's best for your family. I'm trying not to be that person anymore. Jasmine hugged me tight. I love you, Mom, and I'm proud of how much you've changed. I love you too, baby. You're going to be an amazing mother. After she left, I cried for hours, but they were different tears than I'd cried before. Not tears of anger or resentment or feeling abandoned. Just tears of grief for the distance, mixed with pride that I'd handled it well. 3 weeks after Jasmine and Derek moved to Seattle, she went into labor. She called me from the hospital. Mom, it's happening. We're having the baby. How are you feeling? Scared and pain, but excited. You're going to do great. You're strong. And Derek is with you, right? Yes, he's here. Mom, I wish you could be here too. Me too, but I'll be there in spirit. And I want you to call me or have Derek call me after the baby is born, okay? I will. I love you, Mom. I love you too. You've got this. 12 hours later, Derek called. Lorraine, we have a daughter, Evelyn Ruth. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Mom and baby are healthy. A daughter. Oh, Derek, congratulations. Can I video chat? I want to see her. A few minutes later, my screen filled with the image of Jasmine holding a tiny, perfect baby girl. Mom, meet your granddaughter. I cried looking at that beautiful baby. My granddaughter, Evelyn Ruth, named after Jasmine's late father and my sister. She's perfect, absolutely perfect. How are you feeling, Jasmine? Exhausted, sore but happy, so happy. We talked for a few minutes before Jasmine needed to rest. After we hung up, I sat there looking at the screenshot I'd taken of baby Evelyn. I wanted to be there. I wanted to hold her. I wanted to help Jasmine in those first difficult weeks of new motherhood. But I couldn't. They were 2,000 miles away, and I had to be okay with that. 2 weeks after Evelyn was born, I flew to Seattle to visit for a week. Jasmine had invited me, and I'd accepted gratefully. When I arrived at their apartment, Jasmine answered the door holding Evelyn. Come in, Mom. We're so glad you're here. I held my granddaughter for the first time, tears streaming down my face. She was so tiny, so beautiful, so perfect. "Thank you for inviting me," I said. "Thank you for letting me be part of this." "Of course. You're her grandmother. I want you in her life." During that week, I practiced everything I'd learned. I asked Jasmine what she needed instead of assuming. I offered help with laundry and dishes instead of trying to take over baby care. I gave advice only when asked. When Jasmine was struggling with breastfeeding, I asked, "Would you like me to share what worked for me, or would you rather figure it out yourself?" "I'd like to hear what worked for you." So I shared my experience, then added, "But every baby is different. You'll figure out what works for Evelyn." When I saw her putting Evelyn down for a nap differently than I would have done it, I kept my mouth shut. It wasn't my baby. It wasn't my decision. When Derek's mother called and Jasmine put her on speakerphone so she could hear Evelyn cooing, I didn't feel jealous or competitive. I was just glad Evelyn had another grandmother who loved her. On my last day there, Jasmine said, "Mom, this week has been wonderful. You've been so helpful without being overbearing. You've respected our parenting choices. You've supported us without trying to control us. This is exactly the kind of grandmother I hoped you'd be." "I'm trying. It's not always easy, but I'm trying." "I know, and I appreciate it so much. Mom, I want you to know I'm really glad we're rebuilding our relationship. I'm glad you did the work to change, because I want Evelyn to know her grandmother. I want her to have you in her life. That means everything to me. But Mom, I need you to keep doing the work. I need you to maintain these boundaries, because if you slip back into old patterns—" "I won't, I promise. I've learned too much to go backward. I've almost lost you once. I'm not risking that again." Flying home, I reflected on how different this visit had been from how I'd imagined grandmotherhood. I wasn't the primary caregiver. I wasn't the expert whose opinion was always sought. I wasn't indispensable. But I was welcome. I was respected. I was part of my granddaughter's life. And that was enough. Over the next year, Jasmine and I settled into a new rhythm. We video chatted once a week so I could see Evelyn growing. I visited Seattle every 3 months. They came to visit me twice. During each interaction, I practiced restraint. When Jasmine made parenting choices I wouldn't have made, I kept quiet unless she asked for input. When I had suggestions, I prefaced them with, "Would you like my thoughts on this?" And slowly, our relationship continued to heal. One day, 18 months after I'd discovered Jasmine's wedding photos on Facebook, she called with unexpected news. "Mom, Derek's company is opening a new office, and they're giving him a choice of locations. He could stay in Seattle, or he could transfer to the office that's only an hour from you." My heart leaped. "An hour away, that's wonderful. Are you going to do it?" "We want to. But Mom, before we make this decision, I need to know something. I need to know if you're really going to maintain these boundaries. Because if we move closer and you go back to the old patterns, showing up unannounced, calling constantly, trying to take over parenting Evelyn, I can't do it. I can't live that way again." "I understand. And Jasmine, I can't promise I'll be perfect. I still struggle sometimes with the urge to control, to insert myself, to take over. But I can promise I'm committed to the work, to therapy, to respecting your boundaries, to being the mother and grandmother you need, not the one my fear tells me to be." That's all I needed to hear. Derek and I are going to take the transfer. We're moving closer. I'm so happy. But Jasmine, even with you living an hour away, I'm going to maintain boundaries. I'm not going to show up at your house uninvited. I'm not going to expect to see you and Evelyn constantly. I'm going to respect your family's privacy and space. Thank you, Mom. That means a lot. 6 months later, Jasmine and Derek moved to a town an hour from me. Close enough to visit regularly, but far enough to maintain independence. True to my word, I didn't show up unannounced. I called before visiting. I asked if they wanted company instead of assuming they did. I offered to babysit when they needed it, but I didn't push if they had other arrangements. And our relationship continued to grow stronger. One evening, 2 years after the wedding I'd been excluded from, Jasmine and I were having coffee while Derek played with Evelyn in the other room. "Mom, I want to tell you something. When I got married without you there, I thought that was it. I thought we'd never have a real relationship again. I thought the damage was too deep to fix. I thought that too. But you proved me wrong. You did the work. You changed. You became a different kind of mother. And now I have the relationship with you I always wanted. One with boundaries, with respect, with support instead of control. I'm still learning. I still make mistakes sometimes. I know, but you catch yourself. You apologize when you overstep. You course correct. That's all anyone can ask. Can I tell you something? Missing your wedding was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Worse than losing your father. Worse than any hardship I've faced. Because it forced me to confront what I'd become. What I'd done to our relationship. I'm sorry you had to find out that way. Don't be sorry. It was the wake-up call I needed. If you'd invited me to that wedding, if you'd continued to tolerate my controlling behavior, I never would have changed. I would have kept suffocating you. I would have eventually lost you completely. So, in a weird way, excluding you from my wedding was the best thing I could have done for our relationship. Yes, it forced both of us to face the truth, and it gave us the chance to build something better. Jasmine reached across the table and took my hand. I'm proud of you, Mom, for doing the hard work of change, for becoming the mother I needed. And I'm proud of you for setting boundaries, for protecting yourself and your family, for not accepting less than you deserved. You taught me that love doesn't mean controlling the people we care about. It means respecting them enough to let them live their own lives. We sat there for a moment, holding hands across the table, mother and daughter, finally understanding what it meant to love each other in a healthy way. And I thought about that day 2 years ago when I'd scrolled through Facebook and discovered my daughter had gotten married without me. How devastating it had been. How angry and hurt and confused I'd felt. But also how necessary it had been. Because that exclusion had forced me to ask the hard questions. Why wasn't I invited? What had I done to make my daughter feel she couldn't trust me at her wedding? What kind of mother had I been? And in answering those questions, I discovered uncomfortable truths about myself, about my controlling nature, about my inability to let go, about how my love had become a prison instead of a freedom. While everyone else had celebrated Jasmine's marriage, I'd learned why I wasn't invited. And that knowledge had changed everything. Not easily, not quickly, but completely. I'd lost the wedding, but I'd gained something more important, a real relationship with my daughter. One built on respect and boundaries instead of control and enmeshment. It had taken 2 years of therapy, of painful self-reflection, of learning to sit with discomfort instead of acting on fear. But it had been worth it. Because now, instead of a daughter who felt suffocated by my presence, I had a daughter who welcomed me into her life, who trusted me with her child, who wanted me around. Not because I'd earned it through controlling behavior, but because I'd earned it through respect. 3 years after the wedding I wasn't invited to, my life looked completely different. I was still in therapy with Dr. Chen, though we'd reduced our sessions to once a month. The work of changing deeply ingrained patterns was ongoing, but I'd made tremendous progress. Jasmine and I talked twice a week on the phone. We had dinner together once or twice a month. I babysat Evelyn occasionally when Jasmine and Derek needed a date night, but only when asked, never demanded. And most importantly, our relationship felt genuine, honest, healthy. But the real test came on a Saturday morning when Jasmine called with unexpected news. Mom, I have something to tell you. Derek got another promotion. It's amazing for his career, but it means we have to move again, to Denver. It's 1,000 miles away. My heart sank. Just when we'd rebuilt our relationship, just when I'd gotten to be close to Evelyn, they were leaving again. Every old instinct rose up in me, to guilt her into staying, to offer Derek money to turn down the promotion, to make this about my needs instead of their opportunities. But I took a breath. I remembered everything I'd learned. That's wonderful news for Derek's career. Congratulations. When do you move? There was silence on the other end. Then Jasmine said, her voice thick with emotion, "That's it. You're not going to try to talk us out of it." "No, This is your life, your family, your decision. I'll miss you terribly, but I support what's best for your family. Mom, I was so scared to tell you. I thought you'd make me feel guilty. I thought you'd cry and tell me I was abandoning you. The old me would have done exactly that. But Jasmine, I've learned something important. My fear of losing you doesn't give me the right to control your choices. You have to do what's right for your family, even if it means being far from me. Thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me. When do you leave? 3 months. I'm so sorry, Mom. I know we just moved here 2 years ago. I know you were enjoying being close to Evelyn. Don't apologize for living your life. I'm grateful for the 2 years we've had nearby, and we'll make it work from a distance. We did it before when you were in Seattle. We can do it again. After we hung up, I let myself cry. I cried for the loss of proximity to my daughter and granddaughter. I cried for the weekly dinners we'd have to give up. I cried for watching Evelyn grow up through a screen instead of in person. But I didn't call Jasmine back and burden her with my grief. I called Dr. Chen instead. I'm so proud of how you handled that, Dr. Chen said after I told her about the conversation. 3 years ago, you would have tried to control the situation. Now you're accepting it with grace. It still hurts. Of course it does. But Lorraine, think about what you've gained. Jasmine felt comfortable telling you immediately. She didn't hide it from you or worry about your reaction so much that she delayed sharing the news. She trusts you now. That's huge. You're right, the old me. She probably would have waited until the last minute to tell me. Or maybe not told me at all and just let me find out when they were already gone. Exactly. The relationship you've built allows for honesty, for trust, for difficult conversations. That's the reward for all your hard work. Over the next 3 months, I helped Jasmine prepare for the move. I babysat Evelyn when they needed to house hunt in Denver. I helped pack boxes. I asked what they needed instead of assuming. The week before they moved, Jasmine invited me to dinner at their house one last time. After we ate, after Evelyn was in bed, Jasmine said, "Mom, I want to show you something." She pulled out her phone and scrolled to a photo album I'd never seen before. Wedding photos. These are from my wedding. Derek and I have been talking, and we realized something. You've changed so much in the past 3 years. You've become the mother I always needed. And we regret that you weren't there to see us get married. Jasmine, I understood why I wasn't invited. I know, and it was the right decision at the time. But Mom, we want to do something. Derek and I are planning to renew our vows on our 5th anniversary. That's 2 years from now. And we want you there, not in the back row, not as an afterthought. We want you standing next to us as Derek's mother and my mother, as family. I started crying. Really? Really? You've earned it, Mom. You've done the work to change. You've shown me for 3 years that you can respect boundaries and support us without controlling us. You deserve to be part of our celebration. I don't know what to say. Say you'll be there, in Denver, for our vow renewal. We're planning something small, just close family and friends, people who really matter to us. And you matter to us, Mom. You're part of our family now in a healthy way. Of course I'll be there. I'd be honored. Derek came in from putting Evelyn to bed. Did she tell you about the vow renewal? She did. Thank you, Derek, for being willing to include me after everything. Lorraine, you've been nothing but respectful and supportive to Jasmine and me since we moved here. You've been a wonderful grandmother to Evelyn. You've shown us what healthy family relationships look like. Of course we want you at our vow renewal. After they moved to Denver, we settled into a new routine. Video chats twice a week. Monthly phone calls that weren't about me checking up on them, but genuine conversations about their lives. I flew to Denver to visit every 3 months. During each visit, I stayed in a hotel instead of assuming I could stay with them. I asked what they had planned instead of expecting them to rearrange their lives around my visit. I spent time with Evelyn, but respected that Jasmine and Derek were her parents and their decisions about her care were final. And our relationship continued to deepen. One day, about 6 months after they'd moved, Jasmine called with news that took me by surprise. Mom, I've been thinking a lot about our relationship, about how much you've changed. and I want to apologize. Apologize for what? For not giving you a chance to change earlier. For cutting you out of my wedding without even trying to talk to you first about what needed to be different. For being so harsh in that email I sent. Jasmine, you don't need to apologize. You were protecting yourself. I know, and I needed to do that. But I also could have been kinder about it. I could have tried having a conversation with you before making such a drastic decision. I was just so convinced you'd never change that I didn't even give you the opportunity. I'm glad you didn't give me the opportunity. What? If you'd given me a chance to change before excluding me from the wedding, I probably would have made surface-level changes to get invited. But I wouldn't have done the deep work, the real transformation. It took missing your wedding, missing the most important day of your life to force me to really look at myself and my behavior. You really think you wouldn't have changed otherwise? I know I wouldn't have, because I'd spent 31 years making small adjustments when you complained, but never really changing my core behavior. It took losing you to make me willing to do the hard work of actually changing who I was. That makes me sad, that it had to get that bad before things could get better. Me too, but Jasmine, I don't regret the journey. Yes, I missed your wedding. Yes, that was devastating. But the relationship we have now, it's worth it. It's worth every painful moment of therapy, every uncomfortable realization, every time I had to fight my instinct to control you. I'm glad we're here now, too. As Evelyn grew older, I got to watch her development through video calls and visits. Her first words, her first steps, her third birthday party. Each milestone reminded me of what I'd almost lost. If I hadn't changed, if I'd continued to be controlling and overbearing, I would have missed all of this. Jasmine would have cut me out completely, and I never would have known my granddaughter. But because I'd done the work, because I'd learned to love without controlling, I got to be part of their lives. Not the way I'd originally imagined, not as the ever-present, always-involved grandmother who was there for every moment, but in a healthier way. As someone who was welcomed into their lives because I respected their boundaries. 2 years after they moved to Denver, it was time for Jasmine and Derek's vow renewal ceremony. I flew to Denver a few days early. Not to help with planning, Jasmine had that handled, just to spend time with them before the ceremony. The night before the vow renewal, Jasmine and I sat on her back porch while Derek put Evelyn to bed. Mom, I want you to know something. Inviting you to this vow renewal means everything to me, not just because you'll be there, but because of what it represents. What does it represent? That people can change, that relationships can heal, that it's never too late to become the person your family needs you to be. Mom, 3 years ago, I didn't think we'd ever have a real relationship. I thought the damage was permanent, but you proved me wrong. You gave me the chance to prove you wrong. You could have cut me off completely and never looked back, but you left the door open just a crack, and that crack was enough for me to work my way back in. Do you remember what you said in that first phone call after I got back from my honeymoon? After you'd read my email? I said I was sorry. I said I'd been controlling and I wanted to change. You also said you were horrified by what you saw when you looked back at our relationship honestly. That stuck with me, because it showed me you were willing to really see yourself, not to make excuses or justify your behavior, but to actually acknowledge the harm you'd caused. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, looking at myself honestly and seeing all the ways I'd hurt you. But you did it, and that's why we're here now. That's why tomorrow, when Derek and I renew our vows, you'll be standing next to me, because you earned that place. The vow renewal ceremony was small and beautiful, held in a botanical garden with 30 people, family and close friends who'd been part of Jasmine and Derek's journey. I wore a lavender dress that Jasmine had helped me pick out, and I stood next to my daughter as she and Derek reaffirmed their commitment to each other. 5 years ago, we got married, Derek said in his vows. It was a beautiful day, but it was also complicated. We were starting our marriage while dealing with some difficult family dynamics, but Jasmine and I made a commitment to each other that we'd put our relationship first, that we'd build a family based on respect and healthy boundaries. He looked at me and smiled. And I'm grateful that in the past 3 years, we've seen what's possible when people do the work to change, when families learn to love each other in healthier ways. Lorraine, thank you for showing us that it's never too late to transform a relationship. When it was Jasmine's turn, she said, 5 years ago, I married Derek without some important people present. I made that choice to protect myself and our marriage. It was the right choice at the time. But I'm so grateful that today, everyone who matters to us is here. Everyone who supports us. Everyone who respects our boundaries and loves us in healthy ways. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. Mom, thank you for doing the work. Thank you for changing. Thank you for becoming the mother I always needed. Having you here today means everything to me. I was crying too hard to speak. I just nodded and squeezed her hand. After the ceremony, during the small reception, several people approached me. Jasmine's therapist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, introduced herself. Lorraine, I've heard so much about your journey. Jasmine talks about your transformation often in our sessions. I want you to know what you've done is remarkable. Most people can't change patterns that are decades old. You've done something truly extraordinary. I didn't have a choice. I'd already lost my daughter once. I couldn't lose her again. You did have a choice. You could have denied responsibility. You could have blamed Jasmine for being too sensitive. You could have refused to change and lost her permanently. But you chose the hard path of self-examination and growth. That takes tremendous courage. Derek's mother, Karen, also approached me. Lorraine, I want you to know, Derek has told me about your journey, about what you've overcome. As a mother myself, I can't imagine how difficult it must have been to face those hard truths about yourself, but I admire you for doing it. Thank you. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was worth it. Later in the evening, I sat with Evelyn on my lap, watching Jasmine and Derek dance. Evelyn looked up at me with her big brown eyes, Jasmine's eyes. Grandma, why are you crying? Because I'm happy, sweetheart. Very, very happy. Why are you happy? Because I almost missed this. I almost missed being here with you and your mommy and daddy. But I got a second chance. And second chances are precious gifts. Evelyn didn't fully understand, but she hugged me anyway. I'm happy too, Grandma. As the evening wound down, Jasmine came and sat next to me. Thank you for being here, Mom. Thank you for inviting me, for giving me another chance. You know what's funny? This vow renewal, having you here, surrounded by people who support us, celebrating our marriage in a healthy way, this feels more meaningful than the actual wedding. Why? Because the wedding was about hiding problems, about managing conflicts, about trying to control a situation that felt out of control. But this is about celebrating how far we've all come, about acknowledging that relationships can heal, that people can change, that love can look different and be better than we imagined. I wish I'd been at your wedding. I'll always regret missing that day. I know, but Mom, if you'd been at my wedding, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now. We'd probably still be stuck in the same old patterns. So in a weird way, I'm grateful for how things happened, because it gave us the chance to build something better. As I flew home the next day, I thought about the journey from that devastating morning 3 years ago, when I discovered my daughter's wedding photos on Facebook. I'd been so hurt, so angry, so confused about why I wasn't invited. But learning why, reading that email, facing those hard truths about my controlling behavior, had been the beginning of real change. It hadn't been easy. Changing decades-old patterns never is. There had been countless moments when I wanted to slip back into old habits. Times when I had to physically stop myself from calling Jasmine multiple times a day or showing up at her house unannounced. But I'd persisted, because losing my daughter had been worse than any discomfort I felt in changing. And now, 3 years later, I had what I'd always wanted, a real relationship with Jasmine. Not one based on control and fear, but one based on respect and trust. I wasn't the ever-present, always involved mother I'd imagined being. I didn't know every detail of Jasmine's life. I didn't get to make decisions for her or control her choices. But I was welcomed. I was valued. I was part of her family in a healthy way. And that was enough. More than enough, it was everything. 6 months after the vow renewal, Jasmine called with exciting news. "Mom, we're pregnant again. Evelyn's going to be a big sister." "That's wonderful. Congratulations. How are you feeling?" "Good, a little tired, but good. And Mom, I want you to know, this time I want you involved from the beginning. I want you to know about the pregnancy as it happens. I want to share the ultrasound photos with you. I want you to be part of this journey." "Really?" "Really? Because I trust you now. I trust that you'll support me without trying to control me. I trust that you'll respect my choices even when they're different from what you would do. I trust that you'll be the grandmother my children need." "Thank you for that trust. I'll do everything I can to honor it." "I know you will. You've shown me for 3 years that you can do it. Mom, I'm so glad we're here. I'm so glad we did the hard work of healing our relationship. Because I want my children to know their grandmother. I want them to see what it looks like when someone makes real changes, when someone chooses love over control." After we hung up, I sat with a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. Complete peace. I'd lost so much 3 years ago. The wedding, the trust, the relationship I thought I had with my daughter. But I'd gained something more valuable, the truth. The truth about who I'd been, about how my behavior had hurt Jasmine, about what needed to change. And in facing that truth, in doing the hard work of transformation, I'd built something better than what I'd lost. A relationship based on reality instead of fantasy, on respect instead of control, on healthy love instead of suffocating enmeshment. I thought about other mothers who might be reading this story, mothers who, like me, held on too tight, who loved so hard it became control, who couldn't let their children grow up and be independent. What would I tell them? I'd tell them what I learned, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go, that your children don't owe you constant access to their lives, that boundaries aren't rejection, they're healthy. I'd tell them that if your child is pulling away from you, ask yourself why. Really examine your behavior. Are you respecting their autonomy, or are you trying to control their choices? I'd tell them that it's never too late to change, even if you've been controlling for decades, even if you've already damaged the relationship. You can still do the work of transformation. But I'd also tell them the truth. It's hard. Harder than anything you've ever done. It requires facing uncomfortable truths about yourself. It requires sitting with the discomfort of not knowing everything. It requires trusting your children to make their own choices, even when those choices scare you. But it's worth it, because the alternative, losing your children completely, is worse. I'd been given a second chance. Not everyone gets that. Some relationships are damaged beyond repair. But mine wasn't, because Jasmine had been willing to leave that door open just a crack, and because I'd been willing to do whatever it took to earn my way back through it. While everyone celebrated the marriage, I learned why I wasn't invited. And that knowledge saved us both. It saved Jasmine from a lifetime of being suffocated by a controlling mother. It saved me from a lifetime of loneliness after driving away the person I loved most. And it gave us both something better, a real relationship, an honest relationship, a healthy relationship. 3 years ago, I would have said that being excluded from my daughter's wedding was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Now, I understood it was the best thing. Because it forced me to change, to grow, to become the mother my daughter deserved. And in doing so, I didn't just gain back my daughter. I gained myself, a better version of myself, one who knew that love wasn't about control, that protection wasn't about preventing every possible hurt, that being a mother meant letting your child live their own life, make their own choices, and find their own way. Even when it scared me, even when it hurt, even when every instinct told me to hold on tighter, I'd learned to let go, and in letting go, I'd gained everything that mattered. My phone buzzed, a text from Jasmine with an ultrasound photo. "Here's your newest grandchild at 12 weeks. Can't wait for you to meet them in 6 months. Love you, Mom." I smiled through my tears and texted back, "Can't wait either. Love you too, baby girl." I'd missed one wedding, but I'd been given something more precious, the chance to be present for everything that came after. The pregnancies, the births, the birthdays, the ordinary moments and the extraordinary ones. All because I'd been willing to ask myself the hardest question: why wasn't I invited? And then do the even harder work of changing the answer.